welcome to SVG-TV News for Wednesday, February 8, 2017. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. The value of the Argyle International Airport is more than its price. That's according to Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Dr. Ralph Gonsalves in his address at an appreciation ceremony held earlier today for former homeowners in the Argyle area, which now houses the AIA. Expressing gratitude to all of the homeowners, the Prime Minister praised the International Airport Development Company, IADC, and the AIA Company, as well as other governments and stakeholders who contributed in one way or the other towards the successful completion of the air facility. While highlighting the cost of operating the soon-to-be-opened AIA, Dr. Gonsalves stated that many persons will rather criticize the cost to build and operate the international airport and quickly disregard the value and benefits which it will bring to the country.
To operate this airport, about $20 million a year. And about $13 or so million more than it is taken to operate Argyle. Iti Joshua, sorry. We will get about half of the money from different rentals and so on and so forth, landing fees for the planes, etc. But I had to increase the departure tax. I think everybody expected me to increase it. So I go it from $50 to $100 EC, pay it on the ticket. But in St. Lucia, they charge 98 US. And in Antigua, 97.50 US. And ours with Dominica was the lowest in the region. And we will have to contribute the government about $5 million towards the upkeep and the operation.
Dr. Gonsalves further added that various initiatives will be implemented to assist with the cost of operating the air facility.
We want to build out up to 2 megawatts of electric power by way of solar. We want to rely on the sun. And this year we are hoping to install 300 kilowatts of solar voltaic system. And I want to try and get the money by grant. Makes it easier for us to recoup. If I have to go and borrow the money, and depends on the terms, it may take between 7 to 12 years to pay back the cost of installing the solar. But if you get it grant, and there are a lot of places, climate change and all the rest, for us to get it, renewable energy, to get it for grant. So that will help to save the operation, the cost of the operation. But God has been good to us. Morning by morning, new mercies we see. All that we need, His hand had provided. Grace has brought us this far, and grace will take us home. And those who before were blind, I hope they see.
Stressing the need for the Vincentian public to celebrate the milestone of the opening of the Argyle International Airport, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Air and Seaport Development, Godfred Pompey, during an interview with our news team on Monday, highlighted the proceedings which will take place over the next few days, leading up to the opening date on Tuesday, February 14, 2017.
Evening of the 13th of February, that's next Monday, that E.T. Joshua Airport as of midnight will be closed to air transportation. Noting that LIAT, their final flight, will be Once the passengers have disembarked at E.T. Joshua, the aircraft will be ferried to Argyle and positioned for the first flight of Tuesday the 14th, that 6:45 a.m. flight. So we're just reminding the traveling public that the first flight on Tuesday the 14th will be at the Argyle International Airport, because as of the 14th, the E.T. Joshua Airport will be closed.
There has to be consistency and persistency when approaching developmental issues, in particular the issue of climate change. That's the view of former opposition leader and Member of Parliament for East Kingston, Annie Eustace. In his contribution to the 2017 budget debate in Parliament, the opposition called for all hands on deck to tackle the issue, noting that all Vincentians have over the past years seen how greatly small island states like SVG have been affected by the global phenomenon. Pointing out that the issue of climate change is real, Eustace made reference to an instance when his party, the NDP, was charged duties on materials intended to assist persons who are affected by the passage of a weather system.
Us in this country, both from the political parties and other groups, got together, albeit independently, with one goal: to ease the difficulties of those who suffered because of the disaster. Like others, we in the New Democratic Party sought to get assistance from abroad in terms of goods and services which we could use to help those who were negatively affected. Lo and behold, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines imposed duties on the materials that the NDP brought to St. Vincent to help those who were affected. What am I to say about that kind of development? Materials to help the very people who we all say we want to help. That's what it is. That's what it is. There's party politics.
Admitting that the 10 developmental areas of focus for the government this year are all important, the opposition MP, however, stated that he is left worried as there is evidence to prove that what is being promised by the ruling administration is not what is always done.
Is that no one can say that this is not an important development issue in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What we want to ensure is that we mean what we say. We know that the only institution, the only party to pay any duties was the New Democratic Party. And that is a fundamental issue. And I question what has happened. I question what has happened. And I still question it today. And therefore, when you speak so glowingly of the issues related to climate change, I don't want to believe you. Because I've seen evidence of where you go in the other direction.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines has made tremendous progress while running on a deficit budget. That's according to Minister of Housing Montgomery Daniel in his contribution to the 2017 budget. In response to criticisms leveled by members of the opposition, who highlighted that the nation had a surplus of 5% per annum during their time in office, the housing minister stated that despite a deficit budget, the current administration has accomplished much and that trumps anything achieved by the previous administration, despite the then healthy surpluses.
Why harp on a deficit budget that we have presented here when you have had tremendous results from these deficit budgets?
You have to roll up your plans to cross Rebecca.
Mr. Speaker, with a deficit budget, the Rebecca Bridge was built. With a deficit budget, the Argyle International Airport was built. With a budget of surplus, the greatest poverty would have been seen in this country. So make your comparisons. When you speak of your budget, remember the difficulties that you that prevailed under you and making nightmares for Vincentians for 17 long years?
Speaking on the issue of housing, Daniel stated that the government continues to work in the interests of the people of SVG as they seek to provide Vincentians with adequate housing and assist persons affected by various natural disasters.
The document did not state how much they built, but of course we all know they built 4 houses out at that diamond.
3 or 4.
The information is stated in the document. Mr. Speaker, since 2014, this administration, with the onslaught of the several trough systems, we have built 197 homes for families who suffered within that period. The document shows that NDP is still to build 1 after 17 years.
And they had so much surplus.
What were they doing with the surplus? They have to tell us.
Not to help poor people.
The Housing Minister added that institutions such as the Housing and Land Development Corporation, as well as the Land and Service Department, will continue to assist persons in informal settlements. However, it was critical that the Service Department commence establishing a database to monitor the use of crown lands, as well as ensure the safety of persons utilizing these national resources.
It is important that that is done, Mr. Speaker, because there seems to be a growing culture in this country where individuals think that they can just walk onto government land, to occupy such land, and to build at their leisure. This is wrong, Mr. Speaker, and it must be stopped. Particularly where we would have seen where, with the recent rains, where a number of these settlements would have been affected, and the government has to facilitate the outcomes. So, Mr. Speaker, where offenders continue to break the law, the department just have to take that proactive measure to make sure that things are done in order.
And Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Luke Brown, has pledged his commitment to universal health coverage in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. During his contribution to the 2017 budget on Tuesday evening, Senator Brown outlined 2 core areas which he urged Vincentians to become familiar with: universal access to health as well as universal health coverage. He explained that universal access to health is in pursuit of the highest attainable level of health for Vincentians, as he is of the opinion that there should be no barriers in this regard.
So for universal access to health, Mr. Speaker, we are looking to have a progressive elimination of any of these barriers where they might exist, so that they do not inhibit or prevent people from getting the attention and care that is necessary. So that is universal access to health. The corollary, universal health coverage, the idea of universal access to health is complemented by this. And universal health coverage is defined as the capacity of the health system to serve the needs of the population, including through the availability of infrastructure, human resources, health technologies, including medicines, and financing. These are the 4 areas, and when you look at these 4 areas, you immediately get a sense of why this government is putting so much focus in some of the areas that we are giving attention, Mr. Speaker.
Noting that advanced health care relies primarily on healthcare professionals, the government senator said opportunities continue to be made available to Vincentians.
And we know that buildings can deliver health care as important as they are in the process. We know that at the same time, we have to be investing in the development and training and education of healthcare personnel. And we have been doing that. We've been doing that systematically. We've been doing that through the education revolution. And we've been doing that through a special program of training for nurses in this country. And it has borne fruit, Mr. Speaker. And we've been doing that through several of the projects, programs, and initiatives that have already been alluded to here, including the modernization of the health sector project. We have been training people so that they could come and take up important positions where vacancies exist and whereby our strategic planning we identify might be necessary areas to fill. We've been training people to fill those posts. One of the important things we recognize as a ministry, and I see several members of the ministerial staff here as well, so they would attest to this. One of the things that we recognize is that human resources for health is an important plank on which we must base our operation and organization.
Persons in the public and private sectors have been given the opportunity on Tuesday to participate in a workshop on the World Trade Organization's trade-related aspects of the Intellectual Property Rights (TRIPS) agreement. At the opening ceremony on Monday, Counselor of the Intellectual Property Division within the World Trade Organization, Wolf Ewart, said the focus of the workshop is on capacity building, the enhancement of skills in the trade-related thematic areas, as well as emphasis placed on patents, public health, and trademarks.
It is in the spirit of the WTO's founding agreements to ensure that trade complements other essential public policy goals. It also marks a very concrete and definitive action taken under the mandate set by ministers in the Doha Declaration on the TRIPS Agreement and public health. So entry into force of this amendment, and we will be focusing on it particularly tomorrow morning.
Ewart expressed hope for a successful workshop.
In order to equip you best to use the possibilities, the obligations and the balance that is in the international agreements, particularly in the TRIPS agreement, but also in others administered by WIPO. I'm very much looking forward to your participation in these 2 days in which we'll be focusing on patents, public health and trademarks in particular.
The SVG Fire Department is taking a firm stance in curbing the increasing issue of fires here. Indicating that it is a continuing problem in the Vincentian Society, Station Sergeant of Police attached to the Fire Department, Michael Best, said as of late there has been the occurrence of several fire incidents. Some, he said, have resulted in the loss of lives. Sergeant Best said the Fire Department is returning to the drawing board as they find it necessary to sensitize the public on fire prevention and fire safety measures.
We have programs that normally we respond to schools' requests concerning fire prevention and fire safety measures, and we are presently in the process of working along with the Forestry Department in sensitizing the public on fire safety measures, especially in the wildlands, because the wildlands being affected, it can also affect our wildlife, it can also affect our water resource. So in addition to that, you can have wildland fires spread into communities and causing destruction of the communities. As well, you can have that vice return from the community to the wildland fires. So we have started a process of an alliance with the forestry, and that is ongoing. So we're hoping to be out in the communities and actually getting the information out to them.
Noting that plans are still being sorted out to create an effective community outreach program, the police sergeant said he anticipates this approach will help with the reduction in the number of fires which occur across the country.
Certainly, we're hoping to minimize the amount of house fires that occur, because it's within this sphere of house or building fires do you find human life. And human life being affected then, which basically we want to curtail on the amount of lives lost or persons injured as a cause to fire. When it comes to fire though, one of the messages we want to really get out to the community is that the responsibility for safety or personal safety lies with them, not with the fire brigade, because we respond afterwards, we are reactive to fire, and the safety aspect comes from the person themselves. The measures that they put in place will ensure their safety or it can be a detrimental blow to them if they do not ensure that. So persons would look at common causes of fire.
When asked about criticisms leveled against the fire department in responding to incidents in a timely manner, Sergeant Best stated that while the country is solely dependent on one fire station, plans are being mapped out to improve the efficiency of the department.
I think one of the things that we have been looking at is to develop the department in such a way that we have substations being distributed across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because we look at it, it's obviously our service will be inefficient. If we're responding from Kingston to Georgetown, you know, by the time we get there, obviously we might just meet the remains of what used to be a building. So we have looked at that, and we are presently in the process of putting plans together in order for us to address the issues that we are faced with on a year-to-year basis.
And the police say negligence is the cause of the death of 18-month-old Wendell Welcome, who perished in a house fire in the Otley Hall area on Sunday, February 6th. In an interview today with SVG-TV News, Station Sergeant of Police attached to the fire department, Michael Best, said the fire, which claimed the life of the infant and injured his two older siblings, is due to negligent parents. He explained that the fire was the result of a lit candle in the home.
We had human error occurring, and what happened is that the parents were negligent in the discharge of their duties as parents. We had the mom was out and the father also was out, and the situation occurring apparently from a candle that was used in the house. So in counteracting such things, we are hoping that persons or parents always have adult supervision with their children. If they have to leave, both of them have to leave for some reason or the other, ensure that someone is actually looking in on their kids. With regards to the candle, however, we want to advise the public not to put candles near to items that are easily combustible. Paper, curtain, put it in an open space or have it shaded so that at the least it would not start fires. And also it is good that if they put that into a glass of water or a cup of water, so if it tips over for any reason, the water is there to extinguish the flame as soon as it makes contact.
Sergeant Best said the country's law dictates negligence of children an offense, and persons will face the penalties accordingly.
Just to make mention, as you ask a question, because persons must also come to realize that negligence of their children, especially the juveniles, also carries a charge, or there's an offense that can be committed. In this situation, I believe that the Criminal Investigation Department is continuing the investigation. As far as updates are, that is what I can say. They are continuing their investigation into whether or not somebody is going to be charged or not. That will have to wait until that investigation is completed. But cruelty to children, exposure to danger, physical or otherwise, to the juveniles. It makes mention in Section 8 that aspect of negligence, to neglect these children, and as a result, it results in injury or loss of life. That actually brings forth an offense whereby on summary or indictable conviction, they can face fines and or imprisonment.
Meantime, urging the public to adhere to safety tips, Inspector of Police in charge of the Public Relations and Complaints Department, Hawkins Nanton, said it is for the greater good of the country.
Take these safety tips regarding fires very seriously, because at the end of the day, it means that it can prevent you from incurring some sort of loss, whether it is loss of life or loss of property. So that is so essential, and as Station Sergeant Best would have pointed out, we have to be so careful with the storage of combustible materials, combustible products, because in the end they can contribute to igniting some sort of flame that can lead to the destruction of their homes, other properties, as well as loss of life. So from the police end, we're just appealing to the public to be so cautious when you are putting out a matchstick. For example, some people, they may light a matchstick and they may place it in the garbage. In there may be other combustible materials, and this can in turn lead to a flame starting right there in the kitchen, where there may be a gas bottle, etc.